Hey everybody, how's it going here? Sorry, we're experiencing some pretty big delays in getting the streams up. So you guys see this every time where I kind of try to like navigate all these streams, but today was a little longer than normal. So welcome everybody. I am Nick Slavic. I'm the proprietor of the Nick Slavic Painting and Restoration Company. I'm also the host of Ask a Painter Live. It is a weekly live Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, LinkedIn, sometimes TikTok show where we talk about the life of a master craftsperson and a paint business entrepreneur. I'm seeing so many familiar faces already populating on Instagram and on Facebook. Good morning, good spring to everybody here. We're going to be talking about something that I have devoted over 18 years of my life to today, which is the recruitment of humans as W-2s, full-time and part-time, and then as trade partners and subcontractors as well too. So we're going to go brief overview on all this stuff. And of course, anything you guys want to know, you get these comments in here right away and we're good to go. Amzi Bach, I'm seeing you on Instagram, my friend. Love seeing you. Josh Albright, how's it going, my friend? Peer of mine in the industry that I look up to and learned a lot from. And of course, all my friends at Surf Prep Sanding. Oh, the Farias, the Caliphs. Absolutely love you guys. I got treated with spending time 3 weeks. I got to see the Surf Prep family twice and just dropped a huge order with them as well too. So love our stuff in our company. So all right, everybody, before we jump into the recruiting of humans, which is something that I have devoted my absolute life to. I have all the SOPs and all the playbooks. We're going to talk about some PCA events. And I will tell you this, you stick this out to the end, I'll give you my email address, and I will send you my favorite interview questions for subcontractors or for W-2s. So first, though, let's talk about some PCA events. The PCA has announced all of their events. Let's see if I can do this. Let's go this. There we go. All right. So all of the PCA's events have been announced. They are all on the website. We start off with the craftsmanship and painting, mid-September. We're going to residential. That's going to be mid-September as well. Those events are paired together. PCA in Espanol and Women in Paint are late October this next year. The commercial, this is going to be a really special one. Asheville, North Carolina in early November here. And then, of course, we have Expo in 2027 in New Orleans. This is going to be super special because the first time I met people like Josh Abramson here from Albright Painting was 10 years ago at the New Orleans PCA Expo. So this is the 10-year anniversary of me being a member of going to expos. And we're going back to New Orleans, the place where it all started. I have one of the most interesting stories to tell you guys about my first expo ever. I was on main stage with the executive director of the PDCA at the time, and something very interesting happened. But that's for another time. You'll have to grab me offline and find that. And it was one of the founding moments of my entire life, my professional life, and I absolutely love it. So I would urge you guys, come to one of these events. If you've been there, you know how special they are. You get to meet all sorts of interesting people. I'm one of the least interesting people at all these events. They only get more interesting, brighter, and more intriguing as you get to know them. So, all right, let's make sure everything's going good on Instagram here. We are good to go. Da, 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 da. All right, man, love all the interaction here. Get all your guys' questions ready. I'll have some resources for you, some awesome interview questions that I've tested hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times. We are also in a round of recruiting right now in my own company. So it's been really fun to sort of, hold on. There we go. All right. Just got to make sure all of my stuff is, man, got to rearrange all my screens here. I got to make sure we got to get that full thing in here. All right. Hold on a second. All right. We got to get you guys to see the whole dang presentation here. For all you, there we go. For all you people on Instagram, it will only allow me to broadcast vertically. I can't do horizontally. So if you want this sort of thing, this show eventually ends up on Spotify and YouTube and all these other things, and everything is horizontal there. So you're only going to get a portion of the screen on Instagram. I would urge you guys to hop over to Facebook. You can see all my slides, all my colorful graphs, all my data, and things like that. You can watch it on Instagram. It's way more satisfying on Facebook. So, all right, everybody, let's get rocking and rolling. This is Ask a Painter Live, number 510. Everything you've ever wanted to know about hiring and recruiting W-2s and subs. This is something that I have near and dear to my heart. We've built a great apprenticeship program and everything else here. What I will not be talking about today, because this is the deepest sort of topic you can find, I'm not going to be talking about the onboarding process, the training process, the comp plans, and everything else. I can answer questions about them, but that is a complete other show, complete other master's class. If you guys want any of that stuff, all my templates and everything else, we have Mastering the Basics as well too, which I got a link for later. So let us first talk about the economy, friends, right? You guys know that I love a little bit of data and feelings. I started my business in 2007. We went through the Great Recession, if you guys recall it. There was a crazy housing market crash. And you can see over here, this was as we were getting up into the housing market crash, things like this. This is a graph of unemployment, by the way. So you can see through the Great Recession, the unemployment rose to about 10%. 10% is pretty catastrophic, right? So we were at a place where people with bachelor's degrees and master's degrees were lining up to get jobs in basic entry-level positions because there just were no jobs out there, right? The economy was bad. People were losing their houses, and there wasn't an abundance of jobs out there. The economy was not confident. So when you think about like 2009, right about here to 2024, you can see this. So it was a crazy time here because you can see the unemployment rate went from 10% all the way down to sub 4 right here in about 10 to 12 years, right? So we had this beautiful decade of just like consistent economy growth. When the economy is good, unemployment goes down, everybody's clipping away. The housing market was good. Just everything is nice and steady. GDP was as it should. And then, boy, big spike here. Look at that. We rose up to about 15% unemployment in the civilian world there in 2020 because of the global pandemic. And you can see it sort of dropped here. Everybody was told to go home. They were given money to not work, things like that. And then eventually people had to go back to work. So you're looking at 2021, people just had to return. 2022 went back to it, and then demand rose. What's interesting though now is that I've touched 10% unemployment. I know what that's like. I also know what 15% unemployment looks like. This is a completely different kind of unemployment than this one right here, because this is formed by like the natural economy, and it's not an exogenous shock. This is an exogenous shock. It's false. The government's just paying people. The unemployment rate is falsely high because people were incentivized to stay home and not work, right? But the most interesting thing is that up until about 2024, it was still very, very hard to recruit because, again, look at unemployment is high, but people are paid to stay home. So again, it's not easy to recruit. But again, it drops right back down to sub 4% down here, and it's hard to recruit at that time too. So what you're looking at is this period from like 2009 to 2024, where it was insanely hard to recruit people. Now, what the numbers don't show you now is that at this same time here, you guys remember my thesis in 2024 where I was saying I'm feeling something where leads are getting harder to get and labor is becoming more easy to get. Like I was getting all sorts of applications for labor, but leads were a little harder. We had to spend more time on marketing. So I reallocated a lot of my resources from recruiting into leads at that time. And that was one of the best professional bets that I've ever done. So we're on year 3 now of allocating a lot more resources to recruiting clients than we are recruiting employees. And that was a great thing because during this period of time here, this 2009 to 2024, it cost me about $5,000 of time and money to get one fairly mediocre candidate into the company for an entry-level position. And now I tried because I'm going to present data to you guys. I'm recruiting right now. I did some organic posting on social media. I reached out to my network and I did about 4 days worth of an Indeed ad. It cost me $250. We had between 60 and 80 applicants, depending on how you kind of rate them. Like there's just a whole bunch of people from out of state who applied as well, but there were 60 legitimate candidates who applied to that ad for not that much time and not that much money. So the economy has completely flipped in that period of time. And people like us, business owners, need to allocate resources specifically to, do we need more leads? Do we need more labor? And things like that. We don't want to over allocate in one area. I say all this because right now what you're going to experience is it's going to be a lot easier to find people to work for your company, but it's going to be a lot harder to find jobs. So now when we spend our time and money, our time and treasure, I stopped spending so much of that on recruiting and I spent much more of it on leads. It doesn't mean I don't take it seriously. I follow the same SOP in the playbook. It just costs a lot less and takes a lot less time to get even more candidates right now. So that is the data for you guys on this. You guys know I love that sort of thing. So let's talk about recruiting W-2s. Jerry from Ireland. How are you, my friend? Happy St. Patrick's Day to you this week. Love all you guys across the pond there. It's a wonderful thing. Let me make sure I'm not missing anything on Instagram here. Oh man, so many familiar names here. Thank you guys for all watching. I love this. If Mr. Paul Dibdall, I see you in there too. We see some Brazilians populating there. Boa noite, all my friends. Oh, not that. It's bom dia. Bom dia. Good day, all my friends over there. All right. If you guys got any questions about recruiting, W-2s or subs, trade partners, things like that, you drop them in the comments and I will get to them during the live show here. Otherwise, let's start talking about recruiting W-2s, right? So number one, reminder, we're not going to talk about onboarding. We're not going to talk about pay structure specifically in this presentation. We're not going to talk about training. I can certainly answer questions about it. That's a whole nother master's class, right? What we're talking about now is recruiting, which is assessing the need for somebody, finding a way to get applicants at the top of the funnel, and then slowly culling them down into good applicants for your business. So this is no different than finding leads for your business, right? We always talk about that funnel. Top of the funnel is all the people who reply to something. And then you have some criteria and some mazes and some sort of like, things that people have to jump through, the hoops that people jump through in order to find a good candidate. So number one, when we talk about W-2s, I want to talk about the ad that you put out there. So somebody long ago, I was on a podcast. There were two guests, me and this other person, and that person said, the worst hiring ads out there are ads full of musts. You must have a driver's license. You must be drug-free. You must be a good worker. You must be this. You must be that. And it almost felt like a punitive ad, right? And it didn't speak to somebody in an inspirational sort of way. And that really took that to heart. So now what you want is something that shows people opportunity. The goal for me is to pack as much into the images and the words as you can, possibly, because think about it like poetry. You want to get across the biggest meaning that you can with the least amount of words. So now even the imagery, right? We are a tan company. Everything we have is beige. It's warm. It's inviting. So all the fonts, all our logos, we have a uniform. We have a young, decent human being there doing something that young, decent human beings do, which is painting inside a house. Nice tucked in shirt, company uniform, things like that, cleanly shaven. Everything looks up and up. And we hit them with the slug line. We're looking for decent human beings. It's not some catchy phrase. It's not a trademark sort of thing. This is actually the strategy for us, which is when we hire entry-level employees, when we hire painters for our apprenticeship program and things like that for in-house, we're almost making sure we're looking for people who don't have trades experience. They haven't had the bad experience yet. They haven't had bad habits. Although we will entertain the idea of taking out experienced painters, most of them, we have a way lower hit record than with people who are just decent human beings off the street who have common human decency. We can overlay skills and stuff on any of them. So the ad has to get across. We hit them with the slug line. We're looking for decent human beings. It's catchy. It's a little bit esoteric. Like, what is a decent human being? But you say the word, I'm looking for a decent human being to anybody, they know exactly what you mean. They know exactly what you mean. They may not be able to define it perfectly, but they know exactly the type of human that you're looking for. And so then we're also looking for experienced painters if we can as well. But we list out some interesting things about us. Give them the value prop, right? So think about all these potential employees like clients. What are you going to do for them, right? This is a time where you sell yourself to people and get them interested in your company. So we start people with no experience, no education, and no discernible skills at $20 an hour, which is a high wage for an entry level position. We train the heck out of them. You get a 4-day work week, health insurance, retirement, PTO. We have a training facility to learn the craft, and we have unlimited overtime. That tells you a lot about the company, which is opportunity. And we reward performers, people who are self starting, accountable, and things like that. And if you want to be part of our little freedom machine, here's what we do expect, though, which is no excuses or limiting beliefs. You got to be self starting, you got to be accountable. Doesn't mean you have to be perfect. It just means you have to be open, optimistic, and work with us on that sort of stuff. Those are the highest performers. So it sets out something pretty clear. It tells you what kind of company we are, what we do for our people, and who we're looking out for somebody. And again, you don't have to list out everything. It doesn't have to be an 8-page sort of thing here. But then we typically move people to our website. We have 3, I'll show you this later. We have 3 areas where people can apply depending on their skill level or if they're a subcontractor and things like that. Just like how clients can go to our website and do a estimate request, people can go to my website for labor and request to be part of our company. It's a pretty cool thing. So now we got our ad out. So you think about this, top of the funnels, you put your ad out, and then you grab some candidates here, and then you start assessing candidates. Then I call those people down into phone interviews. The people who pass the phone interview get an in-person interview, and then I make a hiring decision. I want to talk about each one of those steps a little specifically, but first I want to tell you about the strategy of all this stuff. My strategy is to put this into about a week and a half timeline. If you have a 4-week hiring process between when you put an ad out and make a decision, 60, 70, 80% of all the humans who apply for your job are going to find a job in that time period. They're not going to sit around and wait for you for an entry-level job for 4 weeks to do this stuff. So my goal is to put a job ad out on a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, let it run through the weekend, start phone interviews Monday, Tuesday, in-person interviews Wednesday, Thursday, the next week, Friday hiring decision. In fact, I'm making hiring decisions today based on the last week and a half of recruiting. I've had a great time with that, meeting a lot of awesome people. So number one, you get a whole bunch of people responding to your ad. And for me, they come into my company one of 2 ways. They go through our website and fill out an application. I get emailed, and then I start assessing those things. If somebody meets the criteria, there's not a whole bunch of problematic stuff. They don't have a criminal background. They're in our area. They sound like a happy, optimistic person, things like that. They meet some basic criteria. I reach out to them and offer them a phone interview. I schedule for about 30 minutes. Typically, they take 15 to 20 minutes, but I want to have a little margin in there. And I start scheduling those on a Monday and Tuesday. I just leave my schedule open and schedule as many as I feel that are qualified. During the phone interview, what I like to do is start off with asking people what I should know about them that I don't get from their resume or their application. Let them talk openly and freely. I ask them some things that they're excited about. I potentially ask them if they've accomplished a big goal or there's some big achievement that they're very proud of. And then there's a whole bunch of other questions. There's a whole strategy to these sort of phone interviews, things like that. But the goal is to make them talk and not me. At some point, I get a little bit of information out of them, and then I give them the pitch for the company. I'm not trying to sell them on the company. I'm trying to set proper expectations. I tell them what the job is, who we are, where we do it, what their first year looks like, and then the pay and comp plan. And to me, that's setting proper expectations. And then I leave it up to questions for them. And they usually have some specific questions about what the week looks like, what the pay looks like, what you have to do to get a raise, what you do to get fired, things like that. All great questions. We also have a rating scale on here where I rate people on a scale of 1 to 100 on the phone interview, 1 to 100 in the in-person interview, and then I stack rank them and then offer jobs to the highest performing people most of the time on there. So once people score well on a phone interview, if they meet the basic criteria, I like to then offer them an in-person interview. And I will say this, I used to, let's call it, if you have 100 applicants for a job, I typically would like to call that to about half, about 50 phone interviews. And I would like to call that to about 10% of that for in-person interviews, give or take. So you want to end up with about 5% of all the people who end up applying for a job actually coming in for the in-person interview. What I've done recently is I've been calling a lot more for phone interviews. So if we get 100 applicants, I'll do 15 phone interviews and then I'll do 8 in-person interviews, something like that. I call it pretty quickly. And the longer I do this, I'm open to less and less phone interviews just because there's such an abundance of people here where if people don't meet some pretty tight criteria, I don't offer them phone interviews. So on this round of recruiting, I think I did 13 phone interviews, and I offered 8 in-person interviews, give or take. So I called it pretty closely this time, and I had a bunch of great candidates this time. So then when we get to the in-person, the strategy is I actually print out the job description, the comp plan. It's about a 5-page document. And even though I did it verbally on the phone, I sit down with them first and I allow them first to ask any questions that they thought of in between or didn't get a chance to answer on the phone interview. When they've got a chance to get those out of the way, then I read through the job description. I don't read the 5 pages. I go through the basics of what we do, interior and exterior painting, open it for any questions, and then I go through our compensation plan. I tell them every week, every month, what their first year in the company is going to look like. And then we just openly talk. And sometimes they have lots of questions. Sometimes they don't have a lot of questions. Typically, I'll do 2 days of phone interviews, 2 days of in-person interviews, and then I'll take a 24-hour period to assess them overnight, stack rank them, do any adjustments I need to based on the esotericness of the human, and then make some hiring offers the next day. And that's kind of where we are today, Friday, in that regard. But that's kind of your W-2s. I do the same for full-time. I do the same for part-time and all that stuff. So let me take a look at Instagram, make sure I'm not missing anything. Oh man, thank you everybody for watching. This is awesome. If you guys got any questions about hiring, recruiting, W-2s, full-time, part-time, trade partners, any of that stuff, you drop them in the comments here and I will answer them live while we're doing this. So, all right. In the interview here, you can see some of the questions I have. I actually, the specific question aren't actually as important as the category of questions. I take the 5 core values of the company or things that I think are most important for a painter in my company, and then I create questions around them to assess them. I don't like any of these BS stock answer or questions and answers. In fact, if I'm being honest, phone and in-person interviews, they kind of like, I wish there was a better way to do them, and I'm open to doing that. But a lot of people come with kind of stock answers already, and they kind of have their guard up against an employer. It's actually very difficult to get people to talk openly and honestly and freely, and I understand why. It's fine. I just wish we could get over that barrier there. So what you're seeing here then is a sample of some questions that I would use for a full-time person, a part-time person, trade partner, things like that. And also you can see my stack ranking system, 1 to 100, give or take. Just because somebody ranks the highest doesn't always mean they get hired. There's a whole bunch of other, ancillary sort of skills that people can have and things like that. So, okay, we got somebody named Ian Serp. From Facebook. He is my main man. He's my most senior estimator. Do you prefer a candidate who asks a lot of questions or one that don't? How much weight do you give this part? Actually, you don't want to know one of the sneaky things, Ian, about business owners is that one of the things that we actually rate candidates the highest on is the amount of questions they have for us. If a candidate comes in and literally has no questions, it's fine. It may not be a negative, but it's certainly not a positive. When you get somebody who has a bunch of questions for you, it's a positive. I tell you, I got tickled during the in-person interview process. Somebody pulled out a notebook and they had half a page of written questions from our phone interview. That stuff immediately earned them extra points because that's a human who has thought about this. It's important to them. There's forethought. They planned and they're being thoughtful about this entire thing. So the more questions, the better, Ian. There's actually, I'm not going to give away all the secrets of interviewing, but from my point of view and a lot of other business owners, the more questions you have, the better. And it shows you're interested and you care, right? So it's a wonderful thing. So let's talk about recruiting subcontractors and trade partners, right? Number one, it's really interesting. A lot of these come from networks. So you can put an ad out, and I'll occasionally do, the painter groups. I'll occasionally do just my regular social media. I try not to abuse the Gathering of Minnesota Painters. I'm one of the founders of the group, so I don't technically try to recruit from that group, just to keep a nice arm's length and not feel like it's a group where I'm usurping any of the stuff in there. I want it to be a freely open group where other people can recruit, that I'm not the main person in there. So Gino, I see you talk about a 4-day work week. We'll get to that after this slide here. So honestly, when I look for trade partners, I buy so dang much paint with Sherwin-Williams. I go to them and I say, hey, listen, I think we can probably paint another 30, 40 houses this next summer, but I need one more trade partner. Who do you know? I mean, my one paint rep talks to about 300 painters, painting companies in my area. So I kind of go to him and say, hey, listen, man, if you know somebody who'd meet our core values, does quality work like we do, I'd love to partner up with them. And if they don't have enough work, we always have an excess of work. So I'd love to work with somebody like that. So number one, use your network. But I will tell you this, if you're mean to Sherwin-Williams, Benjamin Moore, all these other people, and you don't buy that much paint from them, You going there demanding them find you labor is not a good strategy, right? So just like anything else, whether you're an employee, a boss, a vendor, whatever, those sort of things. This is a relationship, and the nicer you are and the more benefit you give them, the more benefit they give you. So surprise, surprise, golden rule stuff. If you're nice to other people, they're nice to you. So I like my network. I'll occasionally put things out on social media, but what you're seeing on my website here is a drop-down menu where 3 types of humans can apply. We have people with no experience in the trades or painting that can apply for apprenticeship. We have experienced painters who can apply for a craftspersonship position. Or we have subcontractors and trade partners that can fill that out. And each one has a different form. Each one requires different things. For W-2s, I look for work history, referrals that I can call on, education, things like that. For trade partners, honestly, we'll get to that the next slide, but it's a much simpler set. You just need to make sure they're a legal company, and then you just got to put them through a test of trials to see if they share your core values and stuff. So, but it's basically the same thing. In this process here, when I recruit a subcontractor or a trade partner, I will not sit down with them. I will not meet with them until they send me a W-9 and a certificate of insurance, and I have to run that by my commercial insurance company. My commercial insurance company actually vets their insurance to ensure it's on the up and up, does the background check on it. And so a lot of times people say, well, listen, I'm not going to give you any of this information until you give me a job. And I say, well, fine then. You just won't. But I'm not even going to entertain doing a job with you until you give me the basic things that allow me to know that you're legal, on the up and up, and a contractor in good standing in the state of Minnesota. After they send me those things and they're verified, then I call for an in-person meeting where I describe what we do and our standard operating procedures, and I tell them how the company works and how we get them jobs. And so typically how it is if they do the W-9 and the certificate of insurance, and we know that they do the things we do, and we feel that they share our core values, we'll start with a small project for them. And if they knock it out of the park, we'll give them exceedingly bigger and bigger. We typically do that. If you do us dirty twice, though, we will erase you from the planet. We will not talk to you at all. If you show up late twice, if you don't say what you're going to do, if you start a job and then ask for more money when you've already agreed to that, that's something where we will just never talk to you again. We can't do that to our clients. You can't do that to us. That's not a good relationship. It's not good partnership. If you want more money, you say it beforehand. I'm all ears. If you think we missed something, we're all ears. We can do it. If you're seeing something we're not, we're all there. I think you guys understand how serious I take this. We don't miss much, but I'd rather have the conversation before the job. And we spend a lot of time recruiting where if we get somebody says, well, Nick, your numbers aren't right, we're going to need more money here. It's like, we appreciate you, but nobody's got more data than us, and we're just going to have to offer this to another subcontractor. Then you can just say yes or no, but I can't go back and reestimate a job because you think with your feelings that I missed something, because we did not, because we have the data, right? With love and respect as well. So after the in-person interview, we offer them some jobs. If they do good jobs, we keep putting them in there, and then we start building that relationship with them where they can rely on us for a certain amount of work. None of our subcontractors get all their work from us, which is a good thing, and it's also a legal thing. But we offer them tons and tons of work, and we love those partnerships. In fact, our apprenticeship program works so well. We have Jay, one of our main men who came here and kind of learned our processes with the goal of starting his own business, went out, started his own business. We shovel him work almost every week, and we love working with Jay. And so he started off as a W-2, transferred to a sub. Absolutely love partnering with him. He's the man. And that's the possibilities of what we do right here, as well as an airtight sub agreement as well. There's a lot to this. I get them vetted by lawyers. There's a lot of old wives' tales and very bad information about what it takes to legally subcontract. It's not that hard. Real businesses just go through a set of legal things to make sure that you're doing right, the other people are doing right, and it's just fine. It's not this big, scary thing. For a couple $100 a year, I get a lawyer to vet all of my W-2 and subcontractor stuff to make sure at a minimum we're on the right side of legal. And then I start inching toward what is moral and right to take care of my people like that as well too here. So Carol Ramos, the COI you require includes general liability and work comp, correct? Correct. If that subcontractor has employees, we need to see that they have work comp as well too, because if any of the insurance or any of the W-9, the licensing with the state, or just the registration with the state is all false, this does come back to me, right? And the people who hire them. So you didn't vet them well enough, and you may have to pay back taxes, penalties, and all this other stuff. So for me, just like when I would work for a home builder or a general contractor, they ask for that same stuff from me because they work on the up and up. I mean, what most people don't understand is that I am a subcontractor as well too. So this isn't this thing where I'm just standing here and hiring all these people, being a labor broker and things like this. Like, I know what it's like to be a subcontractor. I work for large general contractors, commercial and residential. And it's the same way. That's the agreement I have with them, which is I send them my COI. I send them my W-9, they get it vetted. And if something doesn't meet their standards, they'll send it back. In fact, some of the bigger projects we've done, I've had to temporarily do a certificate for a higher, I forget what it's called specifically, but you do like a one-off certificate for that company where you temporarily increase your liabilities for one project or one duration of a year or for that relationship, things like that. So yeah, it's a very serious thing. I get vetted just like all my trade partners and subcontractors do. So we don't mess around with any of that stuff. We are a professional company on the up and up, and that is what we do. So now,
this is hard.
Let's see. Let's turn that sound off here. All right. So if you guys have any other questions, I see Gino, you got a question about the 4-day work week. We'll get to that. But as you guys know, I have a thing called Mastering the Basics. It is 8 educational videos. It is 20 of my own templates, many dealing with this sort of thing, the training, the apprenticeship, and things like that. And it's my personal email address for me to support you along the way. And what I just announced this last week is that anybody who goes to Patreon, there's a QR code there, and purchases this entire package. I listed it as $250, but depending on Canada, Mexico, US, people attach some stuff. You know, like when you go to get a concert ticket or a hotel and it ends up being, more than what it is. I've seen some people end up paying more because of local taxes and all this other stuff. But anybody who's purchased MTB, Mastering the Basics, this winter, and anybody who does until the end of April, you're going to get thrown in the hat, and we're going to draw one random person, and I'm going to fly you out, all expense paid, to spend a day with me in the Slavic shop. We can do whatever the hell you want. We can dig into all my stuff, my ops dashboard, the thing that I don't make public. We can look at the recruiting. We can go visit job sites. We can walk through the office. We can work with my team. We can do whatever. We can spear fish if you want. Right? We can just go hunting if you want. So anything you want, though, that is on me. I pull one person who's purchased that thing, and we will do that at your time. You can pick the date, you can pick the time. I will arrange all the travel, pay for it all. You get to use that day however you want. So follow the QR code, go to Patreon. There's a link in the show notes here as well. You purchase that thing, you're in the hat, you're good to go. If you've already purchased, you're already entered. Everybody who does purchase up until April 30th, is getting thrown into the hat. I look forward to spending a day with one of you guys out there. So that will be a ton of fun. And also, as promised, you email me, nick@nickslavic.com, and I'm going to send you a list of some of my favorite, most effective interview questions. So just say that you were watching show number 510, that you're requesting the interview questions, and I will send those on to you. So let me take one more peruse through Instagram here. Oh man, hey everybody, how's it going over here? I got to switch my screen so I don't always see you guys in real time showing up here. Andre, good to see you, my friend. Bom dia to all my friends in Brazil. Man, I appreciate you guys all watching here. So thank you guys. Oh wait, sorry, Gino, I didn't forget you, bud. Let's talk about the 4-day work week. How do you set up your 4-day work week? All right, I'm going to be a little sassy right here. You only work Monday through Thursday. Is that helpful? I know what you're saying. It's not just scheduling the 4-day work week, but if you want to change the amount of days that you work, if you want to move from a 5-day work week to a 4-day work week, or in my case, and many of us, a 6-day work week to a 4-day work week, as we tend to work a little bit extra, it's a systematic change you have to make in your company. Now, if you're a single owner operator, all you have to do is make the decision to only work Monday through Thursday, and then make sure all your clients are briefed about how you work Monday through Thursday. Now, if you got subcontractors and you have employees and you have all these other things going out there, it's a lot to change. We have estimators, project managers, coordinators, marketers, W-2s, part-time, full-time, trade partners, all these clients everywhere. It's a systematic change that took about 6 months in total for us. This is 7 years ago when we made this change in the company. And what we did was we first had to, we can schedule all the W-2 employees. That's easy. We just brief them, say, hey guys, 3 months from now, we're moving from 5 days to 4 days. It's going to be 10 hours a day instead of 8 hours a day. I want you guys to get yourself ready, right? So just scheduling and prepping, giving time for people to adjust their schedules, because people have childcare, spouses, evening events, things like that. And then what you do is you got to start briefing your clients that in our contracts, it literally says 7 to 5 Monday through Thursday. Then you got to start rearranging your estimators and your project managers and your coordinators and things like that. And one of the things that we do really well is that our trade partners work 7 days a week, right? That's their choice. And our project managers are the main interface, but our project managers only work Monday through Thursday. We set up a time where on noon on Thursday, they will reach out to all the trade partners and subcontractors that are currently working and say, you now have 5 hours. It's noon on a Thursday. You have 5 hours to let me know if you have any questions or if you need any extra paint orders. If you don't get any of those things in after that, here's your closest paint store. Here's the PO. If you need more paint, you're going to use this PO at this paint store. I'll automatically get emailed an invoice. I'll see that you were there and I'll make sure it gets into job costing. But it's setting proper expectations. And that is an every Thursday thing to make sure that your trade partners are supported. The pros and cons of a 4-day work week. If I had to go back and start a painting company over, I would start a 4-day work week from the start. Not so I could work less days or less hours, but because I would paint for 4 days and I would spend every Friday working on my business. I would log another 10 to 12 hours on a Friday and use that time as free and clear time where I have a set of objectives. You have 52 Fridays during the year. You can accomplish more than 52 tasks during that time. And that would allow me to professionalize my business early on. You can do estimates. You can recruit. You can do all sorts of, marketing and things like this. You can write your SOPs. You can do mastering the basics, things like that. And so that's what I would do early on. Now, the downside of a 4-day work week is that this isn't even a downside, but it's a restriction and something you have to consider, which is I employ a bunch of young males who have young families. Their spouse will typically have a job outside. Like let's say they're a nurse or a teacher or something like that has a more regular schedule. They will actually save on daycare and stay home on a Friday and watch those children. And not only will they get to spend more time with their family, but they'll get to save on childcare. So now the thing as a boss that you can do is force them to work Fridays. But what you can't do is make them work Fridays, because if you say, hey, we got rained out on Thursday, we need you to come in Friday, he'll say, I can't. I don't have daycare for that. So you're making me choose my family over work. You can force them to do that. But again, remember, if you want a good culture in your company and you want to be a good employer and mentor of human beings, you have to work within those restrictions. If you told them they're working 4 days a week, you can't change it on a moment's notice because they've also structured their life around it. So just something to consider when you move to a 4-day work week. Also, they work long days, man. It's 7 to 5. They're punching in on the job site, which means they're going to have to get up early. If they need to come to the shop, they'll come to the shop. If they do a substantial amount of work, they'll punch in from the shop and go there. Otherwise, they go right to the site. So typically, they're going to have transit time between 6 and 7 in the morning and 5 to 6 at night. So it gets to be a long day. And in winter, they go dark to dark, right? They'll leave the house that's dark. They'll come back when it's dark, and it's a long day. However, they get a 3-day weekend for the rest of their life. And so they just need to make peace with some of the days are longer, but then they have extended time at home, these other things. So Gino, I hope that helps, my friend. If you got any other questions, you can let me know. Otherwise, I appreciate all you guys watching. Go to Mastering the Basics, go to Patreon, get your name in there, buy Mastering the Basics. I potentially fly you out here. We're going to grab one person there. May even send some gift packages out to a bunch of other people too. Remember that the PCA has all of their events as well. The PCA has all of their events as well in this fall. I want you guys to go there. I will see you at those. I may even have some family in tow. You're going to see a whole bunch of people you know and love from the industry as well. Email me for those interview questions, purchase Mastering the Basics, and have a good rest of the Friday, everybody. I appreciate you.